Here's the answer, or an answer, to exercise C about categorical data. We'll work through this with Power BI in a second. I'll just remind you of the question. It's to look at creating a categorical data dashboard. So a dashboard summarizing Northeast company data, and it'll include a couple of different bar charts. In fact, 3, illustrating the number of companies, the comparative income between sectors, and the growth rate between those sectors. Most of these calculations are done for us, so we don't need to calculate them. They're already in the data set. And we can highlight the message using aggregations, filtering, sorting, and color. And I'll show you how to do slicing as a way of selecting across different visuals with a single slicing tool. Just to introduce that. We'll see more of that later. Okay, let's just switch to Power BI. This is the full screen version, and if I go to get data, we can get the data again. It's in the form of an Excel spreadsheet, and it should be in the 06 VTT exercise C folder, and there's a data folder, and we'll just grab the standard Excel version of this. Select sheet 1 and click load. Okay, so here's the spreadsheet. This has got the same information in as we saw earlier in the section on categorical data. It's the same data. Company ID, SIC4, the standard industrial classification code of area of industry, a percentage growth value, and you can see that if we pull out this, so it's got a pre-calculated percentage growth value, and it has a turnover 2016 and 2017. So the data is loaded. Now we need to start to visualize it. A number of things we can do, and the instructions on is to first visualize the count of companies in this data set. So we'll do that. We're going to use cluster bar charts for now. Put one here. So as before, we're going to select the SIC4 code because this is by sector, and that's the main thing. And I'm going to use the name rather than the code. You'll see there's 2 fields there. This is the name, and we want the count of companies. So as before, we'll put in the companies. We'll just double check that it's a distinct count, although as the company IDs are distinct anyway, that shouldn't make any difference. Okay, so that's 1 down, 2 to go. We can do a number of things now. We want comparative income per sector between 2016 and 2017. So we could click on here and create a whole new clustered bar chart. But what we'll do instead is do copy and paste. So we're going to do a Control-C and a Control-V. And you'll see, like, well, Word or PowerPoint or most other tools these days, you can copy and paste entire visual objects. Of course, it's identical. We don't want that. Now we want to look at the comparative income per sector between 2017 and 2018. So we've got turnover here. We'll drop that into values. We'll delete that, and we'll drop the 2017 turnover in there as well. And if we pull it down and we make this on the same size, you'll start to see how we can get an overview of company performance. So we've got the sectors, the number of companies in it here. We've got the turnover in millions of pounds here, up to about 0.5 million pounds. So the most companies and the most turnover is in a single sector, which is IT and software. Then finally, the other one was to look at growth rate. We just need to remove turnover and look for the percentage growth rate. Drop that in there. Leaving this. So then we have a percentage growth over time. So there's a problem here, though, that in the turnover field, the default, if we look at this, was to sum the values for each company. So that's what you want. If you want to know the total turnover in a sector, you want to sum the turnover for each company. But for percentage growth in a sector, you don't want to know the total of all the percentage growth. That doesn't make any mathematical sense. What you want to know is the average. And if we check here, it says sum. What we want is to aggregate that by average. And there you'll see quite a different set of values, and that in fact film and TV had the highest average percentage growth rate. One more thing though is whether we still want these null values. So we don't have a sector for this. We could call it other, but what we're going to do is filter it out. And instead of doing a filter on a visual, we'll do a filter on the page. And in this case, it's by SIC4 code name. We drop that onto the page filter area, select everything in that list, deselect null, and it'll remove null from each of these. I am going to sort them by SIC4 name. I'm going to sort them ascending alphabetically, so that when we finish doing this, we should end up with the same sorting in each one. So we should be able to almost read across. Now, what else can we do? Well, there's a number of possibilities here. We might want a title, we might want a background image of some kind of logo for the company we're working for. And we might want to do some things on highlighting by value. So one thing in here, we can go into data colors again. Now we can select a function to color by a value. And if I get this up, you'll see by default it'll color from a pale to a blue, pale blue to a dark blue color, based on a count of SIC4 name. Now there's a lot of options here. I am going to just leave this at its default and click OK. And there you'll see we now get a key, and we can put this back up here. So there's from 0.01,000 to 2.07,000 companies. The center one is already colored in some sense by category of the turnover, 2016 or 2017. So we'll leave that one for now. Average of percentage growth, we will adjust this on. Let's make that darker so that we can see the differences. There we go. So on the left we've got advertising, on the right we've got advertising at the top. They're pretty much aligned across, so you can read across from left to right, which is quite a good thing. And we've used a different color scheme so far for percentage growth between 2016 and 2017 and turnover and number of companies. Now, technically, probably it's a good idea to have a different color again for turnover just to show it's different. So let's use a green color, and we'll use another green color on here. You'll see we can type this in. If you're not familiar with this, this is the hex codes for a green. Hex codes for a green, but a bright green. So we're going to make it a darker green. Let's see what this does. There we go. Okay. So now it's a bit clearer visually that these three things are showing different things. Count of companies, turnover of companies, and percentage growth across 2 years. So quite quickly we've built up beginnings of a dashboard. One other thing I'll show you is text box here. You can insert a text box and use that to create a title for the visuals. It is always a good idea to have titles, and we'll put one on. So let's call it dashboard for Northeast companies by SIC4 code. You'll notice the font size isn't very tightly, so we move it up to 24 point. That should do for now. If we go on the background, and you'll see here, we can format the background of the slide. If you click on the page background, you can format the background. And if we go here, we can add some wallpaper. We can add an image in, and I've got an image here. It comes in as fully opaque. We might not want it to be totally opaque, so we'll zoom it down a bit. To see it, you might also need to make the background on the three visuals switch off. We need to have the aggregation in the key the same as the aggregation in the data. Okay, so I've done all this partly to make some space to the right of the visuals so I can show you slicing. So this is the slicing tool. You can drop it in here. And slicing is a way to control across a set of visuals on a page. And you can choose the set. We won't do that now, but you can choose the set yourselves and do so on a field value. And in this case, we're going to use the SIC4 name. And you'll see it comes up here. And if I choose one of these, I'll only get that thing. Right. So there are some options. General, color, selection controls. We're doing a single selection or not. If we do a single selection, you can only see one thing at a time. If you're doing a multiple selection, you can do that. If you want to be able to select everything, you need a select all option. That's quite a good idea. Like the other visuals, you might well want it to be visible. So there you go. That's a dashboard for Northeast companies by SIC4 code. It shows the count of companies in each field, their turnover in 2016 and 17, again across sectors, SIC4 names, and then the average growth, which is a pre-calculated value here between 2016 and 2017. And watch out for getting the correct aggregation. You can color these things differently, which is a good thing semantically to do if they mean different things. And then there's a slicing tool which lets you select one or more. If you use Control-click, you can select more than one.